It's the most important episode of our franchise yet, as today we add our very first rookies to the squad. We've got the NBA draft today, but before we do that, I'm going to spend the next 2 or so minutes recapping what happened in the live stream in case you missed it, where we found out that we would unfortunately not end up with the number 1 pick in the class. Instead, the Grizzlies, with a 3.8 chance, would be the lottery winners. As you can see by my reaction, really was hoping for that number 1 pick, but I think we're still in a solid spot at number 2, as there are some rumblings that perhaps the Grizzlies might be taking center Archie Bernard leading up to this draft, allowing us to take the player that we want in Ayrton Saramago. After this lottery, we would make plans as to how we would use the number 2 pick in the class, and if you want to see my plans for that, I just go recommend watching that stream. But another thing we did was introduce the player that at the time of that stream was my number 1 target for the 14th overall selection, the second lottery pick that we had in this class. Previewing that this class overall after the top 4 was pretty weak, but there were a couple of players worth considering, but really it was Chad Craig until we got to the combine, where I saw Judd Trent and realized I'd been sleeping on a potential late first round steal, or at least mid first round steal, as he's ranked at the 15th spot. With Kyrie Irving Hall of Fame ceiling and some incredible stats, Judd Trent's combine performance made him my new number 1 target at the 14th selection in this class. 1 badge and 71 overall, but that ceiling is very enticing. We'd also found out that Mac O'Neal, probably my favorite player for the number 2 pick in this class, has a back issue that muddies up that pick even more ahead of the draft. We really got to hope that Saramago's there at this point. And then the last important thing we did was we have a new head scout now who has some nice badges. And with that said, we're prepared for the draft. And with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to draft here in the 2025 NBA rookie drafts. Coming up at pick number 1, the Memphis Grizzlies are on the board, and everyone's very curious to see what they will do. Folks in Vancouver are hoping they go with the quote-unquote better fit in Archie Bernard, though the consensus number 1 player is Ayrton Saramago. The pick is in, and they go Archie Bernard with the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft. Now, I don't want you to take my excitement as something that Archie Bernard is not a great player. As I hinted in the lottery and draft preview stream, many folks around the league thought this was a much closer gap between number 1 and number 2 in the draft, and that Archie Bernard was pretty much on par with Ayrton Saramago. I was not of that ilk. I thought Saramago was easily the best player in this class, but Bernard offers a very nice interior presence for your defense. He's going to gobble up rebounds, and I can see why Memphis wanted that to pair with Jaren Jackson over Saramago. One of Jackson's really only weaknesses is his rebounding, and although I typically don't prefer going with better fits over the better talent, I do think Jaren Jackson Jr. is the caliber of player to try to build around more, and Archie Bernard still has a lot of offensive upside, and the thing about him, he's not going to need the ball as much as a guy like Ayrton Saramago. Archie Bernard is going to do a lot of his work as a play finisher, and since the Memphis Grizzlies already have, a major ball handler, you're going to want the ball in Ja Morant's hands more often than you won't. I can see why the Grizzlies did this. I don't think they should be hammered as much as most teams who pass on the best player at number 1 overall should, because Archie Bernard still has that Hall of Fame ceiling, according to many people. I'm not quite sure he's going to reach that ceiling, and that's why I had Ayrton Saramago, number 1. But I am happy to have him fall here. Bernard looks like a solid, if not great, contingency plan for the Grizzlies should that they don't play the same position. I don't think that is a contingency plan. Jaren Jackson Jr. might have played center for them last year. Maybe that's why this is coming. But he's a power forward for them going forward. And Archie Bernard is their center. And that brings up the number 2 pick in the NBA draft, and Vancouver could not sprint this card in any faster with this pick. And with the number 2 selection, the first ever selection in Vancouver basketball history, the Blizzard will select Ayrton Saramago, the 19-year-old big man out of Brazil, played his lone season of college basketball at Arizona. Vancouver desperately needs somebody that they could have as the face of their franchise going forward, and Ayrton Saramago is easily going to fit into that slot. Really, the Vancouver Blizzard were the only team that didn't have somebody you could at least get semi-excited to build around, but now Blizzard fans have something to get very excited about. 6'11", 247 pounds. Ayrton, the Brazilian big, can do a little bit of everything. He can play the center position, although he played mostly at power forward at Arizona, and I think that's where he naturally fits best. I think we've got ourselves a potential long-term front court duo between Saramago and Duran. They complement each other oh so well. Saramago has a lot more of the kind of wing/guard skills that you want paired next to more of a traditional athletic interior focused big with Jalen Duran. But Saramago can put the ball on the deck. He can find some teammates that are open, although I wouldn't say that's a massive strength so far. But he can get buckets in really all kinds of ways. Off the catch, he can run the pick and roll as a ball handler or as the roll man like you see here. Saramago is somebody that should have a very high usage in Vancouver, and they've got to be absolutely ecstatic that he fell to the perfect fit for their first selection in franchise history. Ayrton Saramago, welcome to the Vancouver Blizzard. I could not be any more happy. I was sad when we didn't get the first overall pick, in the draft. But being able to still nab Ayrton Saramago in this case is a massive W for Vancouver. I can't wait to see this guy take the floor for the Blizzard. Potential is both the most exciting and scariest attribute to talk about in a player. I've spoken with Blizzard scouts about Saramago. They firmly believe his potential will lead him to be the best player in this draft in time. And I think he might even be the best player in this class in year one. A perfect selection. Now, there is something that's interesting that is caused by this one pick fall. The Blizzard front office and coaching staff really want to give Leonard Miller a chance to show what he can do this next year. And so now there's a little bit of a logjam at the power forward position. I think the selection of Ayrton Saramago maybe opens the door for a PJ Washington exit. There have been a lot of rumblings around the league that Vancouver was trying to get a second top 4 pick in this draft. And could PJ Washington be used to boost those chances? It did not take long for Vancouver to find a trade partner here. Apparently the Spurs are big fans of how PJ Washington might fit next to Victor Wembanyama. I do admit that could be a nice pairing there, and PJ Washington could even be a high-level bench piece in good time. And they're willing to give 2 seconds. San Antonio has a lot of seconds here, and we're going to accept this offer. A 2029 Spurs pick and a 2027 Atlanta pick. Vancouver trying to build up some ammo to see if they can't trade up to number 4 in this class. Let's see if we can't get up to number 3. I think the news about the Mac O'Neal back injury might push Cameron McKnight to go at 3 here, and he's really the player I want. We're going to offer 14, 29, and 33, as well as an unprotected Phoenix first to the Trailblazers to see if we can get them out of this pick. They don't really need another guard. They have Shaedon Sharpe. They have their Damian Lillard replacement in Scoot Henderson. They don't need another backcourt player. Let's make a move. I guess, oh yeah, when I was the GM of the Sonics, I had to turn on trade override. We're obviously not going to override a trade here. That would be cheating. So I'm going to have to figure out something that they would agree to. We still have 3 additional firsts. I think with the Jazz having Trae Young, it's Hawks or Jazz. Do you believe more in the future of the Hawks or the Jazz? I think we could bet on ourselves here to add another first. After the second season of Saramago and McKnight, would we be that bad? That's valued at 2 stars. I'm curious as to what these other ones are valued at. That's 1.5. This one is the Jazz. That one's valued at 2. We want to bet against the Jazz or on ourselves. That's an interesting question. I think we're going to bet on ourselves. I think Saramago is going to be that kind of player, and after year 2, he could already be leading us to a record better than the Jazz, even led by Trae Young. I could come to regret this though. The Jazz also have a lot of picks. That's tough. I'm kind of changing my mind here. I might want to bet against the Jazz more than I want to bet. Ooh. Well, betting against the Jazz is us keeping this pick, right? Who do we think is going to be better 2 years from now? Ah, man. We'll go with this. And the Trailblazers have agreed to our offer. We don't have our own first-round pick 2 years from now, so the pressure's on over these next 2 drafts to get some studs. And that's exactly what we're doing here with the number 3 pick in the 2025 NBA Draft. We will be selecting Cameron McKnight, the wing out of UCLA. This is a player that I didn't love to be kind of the only guy we would take in this class, but as soon as we secured Saramago, I knew I wanted to pair him with a shooter and a defender like McKnight. Not going to be the number 1 option on any team, but pair him with a star, and I think he can do some serious damage, a la Klay Thompson. I said in the last episode that is the natural comparison for a guy like McKnight, and I think he's going to do a lot of damage, but also be a massive help. I don't think we have high level shooters. We have a lot of good shooters on our team, but I don't think anybody has the potential to be as good of a shooter as McKnight, I think, will be a couple years into his career. We need this pair of rookies to hit the ground running, and I think their skill sets will lead to some early success. Maybe not in their rookie year, but by year 2, I believe these 2 could form a formidable duo, and I'm excited to see the 2 of them play together, starting in Summer League, but also throughout the season. Being able to, in a class that had 4 really good prospects, nab 2 of them is the vision that I had all the way back when we traded OG Anunoby, a very controversial trade at the time, but we used the 2 first rounders we got in that OG trade as the key pieces in this one. We pretty much turned Cam Johnson and OG Anunoby and a couple of, and a second round pick, I think. It'd be hard for me to do all the math right now, but we pretty much turned Cam Johnson, OG Anunoby, and a second into Cameron McKnight for the rest of this franchise. Cameron's a guy I'm really excited here to get into the building. 20 years old, 5 badges to start, and I am stoked that we were able to get pick 2 and 3 from this class. For my money, for Sean's money here, Cameron McKnight is the best long-range shooter in the draft, and I think it is very clear that that is the case. That's pretty much going to wrap up what we can do in the draft, but I do want to see where some of the better players in the draft go here now. Mac O'Neal, the back does not cost him too much, still goes 4th year to the Washington Wizards. They desperately need help in their rebuild, and they're going to get some with Mac O'Neal. The Jazz are in a tough spot here. You definitely did not want to pick number 5 in this class. They were probably hoping they could take a risk on Mac O'Neal's injury, but it looks like Washington wasn't going to let that happen. Trey Gilliard here, I think, is a solid bet for them. Has a Ray Allen ceiling comp here. 6'3" though, and not a point guard. Can be troublesome, but the Jazz are hoping that this guy can be just so good of an offensive threat that it doesn't really matter. Orlando goes with Glenn Jackson here, a mid-range shooter out of Indiana. Another 6'3" off guard here. They're going pretty high in this class. 6'3" is not terribly short by any means, but you typically want that guy to be the shortest player on the court. And in the Magic's case, depending on what they do with Anthony Black, that could be the case. Proven scorer, Jackson led the nation in scoring last year, averaging 26.5 a game. He can make some stuff happen in the mid-range. Curtis Carroll here has the flow of the hair. He's kind of a well-rounded, has a lot of C pluses and C's in his game. Has some solid upside as well. 6'7" is good positional size. Taribo Udo, a 7-footer with 252 pounds, can do some work in the mid-range as kind of a combo big. That's what the Pistons got with their pick here. Chad Craig goes all the way at 9. So it's a good thing we did not wait till 14. In the last episode, I said he was the number 1 player that I wanted at 14. We ended up finding another potential steal when we went through the NBA Combine. But we got some clips here for Chad Craig. So let's talk about him. He is an all-around, well-rounded, offensive point guard here. He's definitely more of a score-first guy than a guy who's always going to look to set his teammates up. And I think that suits him to be, at least early on in his career, a nice spark plug off the bench. I think he'll be able to handle the ball a bit, score off the catch and off the dribble. Not afraid to use his 6'5", good positional size at point guard to his advantage to kind of shoot over people here. His questions is he doesn't quite have the burst to drive right by guys, so he's going to have to be a little more crafty with his interior finishes, and you don't know what he's going to be defensively. His upside isn't outstanding, but I think it's certainly good enough to draft at this portion of the class, and he was one of my favorite players outside of the top 4 in this entire class. I think the Hornets selected well here. There you have it, Chad Craig at number 9. He goes above Nate Moore, who's the only other guy we have clips of. Sean Humphreys, another guy who excelled at the Combine. OKC really looked at that. Byron Evans. So we're seeing a fall for Nate Moore, who was the consensus 5th or 6th player in this class, yet to be drafted, and it's due to his lack of offensive capabilities here. Will he end up falling out of the lottery? No, the Trailblazers will trade down from 3 to 14. They probably think they got themselves a steal here. I thought Nate Moore was overrated at that 5th or 6th consensus player, but what he does offer is a whole lot of defense, and I think the Blazers do need a defensive boost here after having their backcourt be a little bit more offensive focused. I think they could add some help on the other end. What you like about Nate Moore fitting with the Trailblazers is he is not going to take a lot of possessions away from Scoot and from Shaedon Sharpe. He's going to make a lot of his impact being a hustle player, setting good screens offensively, and being a good defender. Now, with Nate Moore, he does have quite a bit of upside, though. Some scouts think that he could turn into a positive impact player, and if that ends up being the case, then yeah, that's going to be a steal of a pick here at the tail end of the lottery. It just all depends on what you believe his capabilities will eventually become offensively, because he's certainly pretty much a 0 here to start. I also realized that I forgot to show you the Mac O'Neal highlights, but if you watched any of my previous episodes, you've seen those already. Relentless willingness to sacrifice his body for loose balls. That's what you get in Nate Moore, an ultimate teammate. Played for the national championship Duke team, and I think that's what had him be overrated heading into the draft, but ends up probably about where he should have been taken here at the end of the lottery. And if the guy that we like at point guard does not go in the first round, and he goes right here at 21, Judd Trent was the guy that we identified as a potential steal heading out of the Combine here. He ends up going at 21 to the Pacers. Maybe we could have tried to see if we could work out a trade. We gave up so much value already trading it up to number 3 though. Let's just go back-to-back point guards. Having Tyrese Halliburton is very interesting. And here you have the official overalls of these draft picks here. Archie Bernard comes in at an 81 when it is all said and done. Really good defensive interior prospect. Didn't quite have the perimeter defense you want, I think, from a modern day center. Has the ability to be a 3-level scorer at the offensive side, which is what made him from like a top 10-ish prospect all the way up to the number 1 player in the class. 6 starting badges for him. I think the Grizzlies are going to be happy with what they got here. Now the question is, what is his potential when it's all said and done? And ends up coming in below the position average at a B+. He has B potential. Now his boom potential I know is going to be much higher than that. So if he hits that boom, if he can get off on the ground running here to start his NBA career, he could be very, very good for the Grizzlies. Otherwise, he might already be kind of close to capped out. And that was what worried our Blizzard scout about potentially taking him. Ayrton Saramago will be 79 overall to start his career with the Blizzard. All around good scorer here. Playmaking perimeter defense is okay. It's good for a starting point for a power forward for sure. B+ post defense, B- rebounding, and what? What? B- potential? It's supposed to be A+. No. Wait, but that doesn't make any sense. Look at the comparison. The blue bar is the player and the red bar is the position average. If his potential is B-, why is the blue bar so much higher than the red one? Something's not adding up. Is he maxed out already, or does he have high potential? There's no way. There's no way he's maxed out already. That would crush me. Maybe there's a reason Memphis passed on him at 4. Maybe he's the one that's not likely to hit his potential. I still think that comparison is right. I think he has really high potential. I'm tempted to look at it. I usually don't look at people's potentials, but I'm tempted in this scenario because one of these is lying to us. The comparison's lying or the B- is lying. If you look in the case of Bernard, it's B and it is lower than the position average. So it's like where it's supposed to be. We'll look at McKnight here in a second, but that doesn't make sense. I don't know what to think. Either the bar is right and we should be very happy, or the rating, the B- is right and we should be very sad. I don't know which. Those are two very contradictory things too. The difference between that gap in the blue bar was probably like A. The difference between A potential and B- potential is insane. Let's go to Cameron McKnight though. A 3-point shooting, A perimeter defense. That's what you draft him for early on in his career, and that's really what he's going to be throughout his career. Can also play on the interior a decent bit for a shooting guard here. Really good athleticism, though not elite. B+ potential here, and again, that one fits. The graph on the side fits the rating. So why didn't it with Ayrton Saramago? I don't get it. Starting off at 77 overall for him. He's got 5 badges. Here they are. Let's look at Saramago's badges. I was so weirded out by his potential that I forgot to show them. These are his badges. Pretty good badges. Start as well. Mac O'Neal comes in at 76. I think that's where he was projected. He has these 2 badges. And yeah, he's pretty much the player that we all thought he was. He has A- potential. So far, the highest rating-wise. And again, the rating matches the graph for everybody except for Saramago. It doesn't make sense. Curtis Carroll ends up with a 74 overall. We're trying to find some other potential studs. Chad Craig only ends up with 72. Let's see what his potential is. Just C+. Although, again, that doesn't look like a C+ compared to an A- on that graph. I don't know what to believe. The game is confusing me, and I don't like it. Sylvester Anthony had a 68. He has really high potential, or at least he was supposed to. A+. So a super, super long-term project taken by Atlanta here, but I think at that point in the draft, that's a solid selection. You're probably not going to get somebody that's both an early contributor and a high upside guy, so go for maximum upside, I say. Bryce Buchanan, the 5'11 player. Let's see what he's got. B-. What I want to see is Judd Trent. Kind of looks good, at least as an offensive player. B potential on him, although that's higher than A-. These don't make sense. I don't remember this happening in 2K24. I don't, so I don't know which one to believe in this case. I gotta believe it's the comparison, though, because it matches more what their card was saying as prospects, because Judd Trent's was that his ceiling was Kyrie Irving, which if that's the case, and it is above that A-, he has above average potential, this is the steal of the draft. Getting a player that good at 21 when I said the draft of the top 4 was trash is a really good selection. And then this is when the 60s start rolling in. I mean, a 65 for Farrell. He's got to have insane potential. It's more average. So there you have the first draft. Pretty much everybody getting drafted in the second after the first few picks. We're in the 60s. Did you think we were going to be able to pull it off? 2 top 4 selections, in fact, 2 top 3 selections. I think Mac O'Neal might have gone over McKnight just for the potential if he did not have a medical issue. But that medical issue made me feel like I needed to get number 3 just to be safe. I think these two are going to combo together extremely well, and I'm super excited. I could not have asked for a better draft here in year 1. And that's exactly the kind of start you want. Maybe you want more than 2 picks early on in a franchise, but when you're getting 2 of the 3 best players in the class, I think you're not going to complain about just having 2 picks. We will accept this team option for Jalen Duren. Of course, he will be our highest overall player in year 2 of this series. Now that we're in free agency, the first contract we will offer is to try to bring back Lonzo Ball. Because we traded that 14th overall pick, we ended up not taking any point guards in the class, which means there's going to be a pretty big hole in our backcourts. We absolutely need Lonzo Ball back, hoping he can have some better injury luck here in our second year than he did in the last one. We're also going to have to try to bring in a UDFA at the point guard spot, and the pickings were pretty slim, but I did find a 6'7" point guard here that we're going to try to bring in on a 1-year deal. We're required to have one more quote-unquote draft-only player here. I require a minimum of 12 players that are, part of our draft-only team. So UDFA Ricky Mobley, mostly because he has B+ potential, will be our other one here. And that'll make 12 draft-only players. Now we can start to focus a little bit more on some mentors to fill out the roster. Unfortunately, it's not a super good mentor season. Everybody's either not good enough to be a great mentor, or they're too good to sit on the bench. So we're going to have to make do with what we have here when it comes to the mentors. For those 3 mentors, it'll be Seth Curry, Torrey Craig, and JaVale McGee. That will be the mentors we have for this season. Lonzo Ball, JT Washington, Ricky Mobley, Seth Curry, Torrey Craig, JaVale McGee. That's the free agent class for the Vancouver Blizzard here in Season 1. So we have our team finished off here. When it comes to actually having our rotation, I think Isaiah Joe is going to have to be our backup point guard this year. There's just really no other way to do it. So point guard will be Lonzo and Isaiah Joe, McKnight and Max Christie at 2, Josh Green and KJ Martin Jr. at the 3, Saramago and Leonard Miller at the 4. with Jalen Duren and Zeke Naji at the 5. That's your Vancouver Blizzard 2025-2026 rotation. Probably not going to be good for this next year. We'll see how offseason progression goes, but we'll have a lot more exciting stuff to watch with the addition of our 2 top 5 rookies for the next year than we did last year for sure. Should at least be more intriguing if the wins aren't necessarily adding up. Time to take a look at what happened around the league. Did many players shake it up? Jalen Johnson remains unsigned. That's kind of crazy. We did have him in our draft only franchise last year, but I thought he showed enough in real life to definitely be somebody on a team. Now he does have 8 offers. Can I see those offers? I mean, the Rockets are probably going to end up landing Jalen Johnson here, but let's take a look at who's already signed. Kyrie back to the Dallas Mavericks here. Jamal Murray will also stay. We get 2 former Rockets staying with the Rockets. Middleton back to the Sonics, so no movements. Fred VanVleet to the Lakers. There you go. That's the big ticket free agent. Miles Turner. Jalen Suggs goes to the Raptors. I don't think the Magic love losing a defender the caliber of Jalen Suggs, but pretty much the top, what was that, 6 or 7 free agents all stayed with their original teams. So a little bit of continuity heading into year 2. Not much in terms of major shakeouts in the league. Now it's time for player progression. What can we get here in terms of upgrades for our squad? Jalen Duren up to a 12 badge player. We got JaVale McGee to mentor him. I don't even know if there's going to be any badges left to mentor here. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bronze, 4 silver, and 2 gold. Box out beast and rebound chaser. He's going to be an awesome rebounder for us. Set great screens. Get some highlight blocks. Score a little bit down low. I like what I'm seeing from Jalen Duren, although his badges, like I said, are at a point where I don't think JaVale McGee's even going to be able to mentor him. Maybe he can mentor Zeke Naji instead. Saramago, rookie's not going to change. Lonzo's a little too old to change. Isaiah Joe didn't get much better. I mean, Lonzo actually did get, plus 3-point and playmaking and rebounding and inside defense. That's kind of insane, although his physicals did go down. Josh Green, still just a 77 overall. Was hoping for a little bit of an upgrade there. Has 4 badges. I can't remember, did he already have 4 badges though? I'll have to watch back the tape to see if he gained any badges. McKnight, a rookie here. Max Christie up to Max Christie up to a 76 overall. Gets that B plus 3-point and mid-range. So a little bit better all across the board scoring wise. A little bit better athleticism as well. Much better on the IQ, which you love to see that. Doesn't get better as a defender, unfortunately. But 76 overall, that's definitely going to help him be a contributor here in his age 22 season. KJ Martin goes up to a 76, but that's just because of the position change. I don't think he actually got better at anything, and it looks like he didn't. Zeke Naji going to be asked to be our backup center. He goes up to a 74. That's still a little bit low here. Rebounding at a B, that's like the minimum you can really take. He also gets better in the athleticism category here to a C plus 3-pointer. Leonard Miller going to get a chance to be an impact player for us coming off the bench, backing up Ayrton Saramago. He gets some decent upgrades across the board, but 73 is still a little bit low for a starter. And then we got our mentors here, of course, going to lose stuff. Hopefully they still have enough badges to be valuable mentors, though. I have Craig for Saramago. That's not ideal, but especially because he lost some badges. He was honestly the best one. Physical finisher, I think, is something that Saramago doesn't have that I really want him to. So that's going to be really what we're focusing on here with the Torrey Craig mentorship. We have McGee. What does he still have? I mean, he could teach Rise Up, I think, to Duren, among other things. But there you have it. There's the offseason progression. Ultimately, I think good for Jalen Duren. I think he gained some badges. Pretty good for Max Christie. and was maybe hoping for a tiny bit more from Miller and Najee, but they're still, at least I think they're playable. They won't necessarily be great off the bench this year. And there you have it. Now we get to the Summer League, and here's something. I'm going to build out the Summer League roster right now, but we will be streaming the Summer League in the next episode. So the first action these guys will have on the court will be something that we're able to see. A lot of guys are already getting negatives. That's unfortunate. Miller wasn't happy with us not playing him this year. That's going to be remedied this year. Something weird about this game is you can take, like, I can have Jalen Suggs be on my team, even though he's literally a member of the Raptors. So you'll see teams just stealing players from other rosters for the Summer League. I don't know why that's the case. Why is Lonzo Ball Summer League eligible? He's 27 years old. Hopefully nobody puts him on their Summer League here. So I'm just going to find somebody that actually doesn't have a team. So Davion Mitchell here is the highest overall player that is unsigned. So he's probably going to be our Summer League point guard for the squad. So there you have it. I don't want the UDFA to be the starting point guard on our Summer League team. Shooting guard, we have Cameron McKnight, but we can also go down and invite Max Christie, which we will. But just a really weird quirk that they added in this game that you can take from literally any team. Doesn't seem like the way to go if I were, making the game, but we'll have Josh Green. I don't think he's done enough to say that he doesn't need the Summer League anymore. I mean, why is Jaden McDaniels Summer League eligible? I mean, this guy should not be doing Summer League. Zaire Williams is unsigned. That's interesting. But we're going to bring our other player here. Both of our small forwards will be on our Summer League team. Power forward wise, I think we have both the players that we really want already on the roster. Center wise, Jalen Duren is Summer League eligible. Screw it, let's bring him on. Let's also bring on Zeke Najee. Pretty much our entire lineup is playing the Summer League. They're all going to get to know each other really well. It's really just Isaiah Joe and Lonzo Ball who aren't playing. And for some reason, Lonzo Ball, we could even play him if we wanted to. I feel like if we don't, though, he's going to play for another team. Hopefully not. We'll see how it goes. Lonzo Ball wouldn't play Summer League, so I'm not going to. I mean, you could argue that Jalen Duren wouldn't either, but at least it's a little realistic with Duren. It's not anywhere near realistic with Lonzo Ball. I'll figure out the rest, the last 4 spots off camera, but that's pretty much going to do it for the offseason. Let me know what you thought of the draft and the moves we made in free agency. Of course, can't do anything serious, but we were able to get some mentors on the board, as well as a couple of UDFAs. Like I said, though, that's all I've got here for this episode. We'll be back with a Summer League live stream coming at you soon, and I'll see you then. Bring the Blizzard.